What is up, YouTube? Live via satellite here, and today we are discussing Kingdom, manga chapter 541. So my question to Hara today is this. Is it real? Is it real? Is the hype of Gyou'un real? Because let's take a look, guys. These Zhao generals, if we're to be honest about it, have been frankly underwhelming. Because think about it, we've gotten a lot of hype for a lot of these Zhao generals, and none of them have been delivering on their hype. With the exception of Sun Suizhu, what general has been delivering on the hype that they've gotten? Think about it. Remember the hidden talent Kishui? Like, this guy was called the hidden talent Kishui. If that's not hype, I don't know what is. Right now, the hidden talent and Bate can't get past Moten. It appears the hidden talent is still hiding. And on the other side, we have Gyou'un, Gyou'un, and Bananji. Now, at this point, Gyou'un is pretty much an afterthought. Let's not forget Gyou'un also worked under Reveiw and really hasn't shown much. And then we have Bananji, who came through with all types of hype. First, he comes through talking about he's gonna make the Queen endure the wrath of his iron hammer, which took it to that Thor level of hype. But after we found out that his iron hammer was his fist, that brought the hype down a peg, but it was still cool because now he's on that Iron Mike level of hype where you expect him to at least knock a couple heads off. But then after seeing him completely whiff on Ohan, and the only thing he's really hit this arc has been nothing but dirt, it pretty much brought the hype down to this guy's level.
You playing around, jumping on my shit, bro. That's ain't yours. I told you not to start the fight. I told you not to start it, bro. Chill, cool, chill.
So believe me, I do understand if you're not hyped for this. Because you've been introduced to a lot of generals and none of them has lived up to their hype. So I can't blame anybody for being skeptical. But this time, I think it's different. This time, I believe it's real. I do. And there's a couple of reasons I believe it's real this time. But the main reason I think it's real is because Hara spent an entire chapter hyping this guy up. And I don't think he would waste an entire chapter hyping someone up if he wasn't going to be the real deal. Plus, he even threw a prophecy in the mix. And you know just as well as I know, prophecies are like 1,000% accurate.
That Judgment Day would happen on May 21st.
It will begin with a huge earthquake.
Alright, so the chapter starts off with Gyou'un arriving to the battlefield, and the Zhao soldiers are excited because they feel with these reinforcements, they'll be able to crush the Quinnidae. But Indono notices they're not just any reinforcements. He's shocked Riboku'S already sent out Gyou'un because it's only the third day, which makes me think that Gyou'un was more of a trump card that was supposed to be saved for later. And Indono even tells his men to take a good look at the men surrounding Gyou'un. These men are Gyou'un's elite force, the Reveiw, and that these soldiers are living and breathing soldiers who once fought under Reveiw, also known as the phantasmal general of the three great heavens. Indono is actually a very good motivational speaker. He's letting his soldiers know that compared to these guys, they pretty much suck. And then we find out just exactly why Reveiw was called the phantasmal general. And it was basically because at the peak of his prime, he died from an illness. And being that he died in his prime and his career was so short, it left a lot of things unfinished and it just seemed like a lot of wasted potential, as if his military career was just a dream or a fantasy. And I really like that Hara put in a detailed panel of the heavens and each set of stars representing the 6 great generals of Quinn, the 7 fire dragons of Wei, and also the 3 great heavens. But Indono's story doesn't stop there. He lets us know that the one who was said to be most hurt by this was none other than Gyou'un himself. And it's said that his cries could be heard all the way in Kanton. I can only imagine what that sounds like. And then we find out that Reveiw was well known for having 10 generals. But after the death of Reveiw, 8 of these 10 generals, due to them not wanting to live anymore, thrust themselves into battles that had insurmountable odds. The only 2 that remained were Gyou'un and Gyou'un. And Indono and his men believe that they survived due to the fact that they were the ones who were at Reveiw's side when he passed away, and that Reveiw must have said something to them to make them somehow want to continue to live on. Indono then finishes his story, saying that there's no greater ally that they can hope to have on their side besides Gyou'un and Gyou'un, who are now once again fighting side by side like they did under Reveiw. And seeing these two guys meet on the battlefield, I wondered how long it's been since they've actually fought together. But they seem to pick up right where they must have left off, because Gyou'un is surprised that he was called out so early, and he was also surprised that there was someone out there who managed to catch Gyou'un off guard. And Gyou'un explains that even though he thought Akko was his only opponent on the battlefield, that he was wrong, because Ohan, even though right now he's not on Akko's level, he could surpass him at any time, whether it be 3 years from now or 3 days from now. But Gyou'un doesn't care about this. He says you should worry about yourself before you worry about your enemy. Then we find out from Gyou'un that even though him and his men are in good fighting shape due to all their drills and training, it's been over 12 years since they've been in an actual battle. So in order to get the blood flowing, they decide to go out for a little warm-up. Warm-ups are always essential.
Yeah, so he asked me to lead you in some warm-up exercise. Deeper, really stretch out those lungs. And now let's shimmy, shake the shoulders back and forth. Shake them. Very good, very good.
But before he goes, he asks Gyou'un, does he realize it yet? These very Sukai plains that they stand on are the same grounds that their master prophesied about in his last message. And with these words he sets off, but these words leave Gyou'un trembling to the point that his men question whether he's okay or not. Then we see Gyou'un clashing with the front lines of the Quinn, and this man's glaive is ridiculous. I mean, you know someone's glaive is sharp when they can take 7 heads in one swing. And as we get an overhead shot of the battlefield, you can see that the Quinn's front lines are being pushed back, and they can't believe that these newcomers are crumbling their front lines so easily. And as everyone else looks on in complete shock and awe, Gyou'un is still pondering the words left to him by Gyou'un. And Gyou'un had always thought what his master had told him on his deathbed was meant to keep them from seeking out their own deaths, and he never took it to be something real. And surprisingly, even though this felt like something that might be teased for a while, we immediately get a flashback to the day of Rinsojo's death. And Rinsojo tells Gyou'un and Gyou'un that they must not chase after him, that he had a dream, and he saw the two of them cutting down heroic figures on scarlet red fields, slaughtering enemies drove after drove. And he tells them the two of them still have a role to play, and that is why they must not follow him into death. And he makes them promise not to. But his final words are just for Gyou'un. And he says, Gyou'un, when that hour arrives on that scarlet field, stain the grounds even darker with the blood of your enemies. And in this last panel, we see that Gyou'un is doing exactly as his master instructed. And that was the chapter in a nutshell, guys. And for a chapter that focused solely on the Zhao side, I think it was a very good chapter. I mean, it really built up the legend of Rinsojo, and it also showed the bond between the last of his remaining generals. Small little things like Gyou'un being called Garyu by Gyou'un show just how familiar these guys are with each other. And I'm very interested to see what kind of chemistry they'll have on the battlefield. But being that this chapter spent a lot of time hyping up Gyou'un, I think it would be wasted if we don't get some sort of major feat. And being as it looks like Rinsojo's prophecy was at least half true, when he spoke of Gyou'un and Gyou'un fighting on his Shukai plains, which literally translates into Scarlet Sea, I would think that the other part of his prophecy, which spoke of them cutting down heroic figures, would also have to be true. And the only heroic figure I see that could be cut down on this battlefield is Akko. And I know a lot of people disagree with this thought because it would be repetitive to already have the death of Mako on the left and then having the death of Akko on the right. But there really are no other feats on this battlefield to validate Gyou'un's hype. Unless you think he's going to kill Ohan, which I think has a 0% chance of happening. But there's also the possibility that being that the Quinn are so outnumbered general-wise, right now it's 4 to 1.5, I wouldn't be surprised if Osun decides to send Shin to the right battlefield to engage Gyou'un, being that Shin is pretty much the martial might on the Quinn side of the battlefield. So if anybody could go up against Gyou'un, Shin would definitely have a shot. And I originally thought these two would fight in the center, but once Gyou'un was moved to this battlefield, I started to think it wouldn't happen. But then an idea came into my head that Shin would be the only one of the monster trio to visit all 3 battlefields. And that by the end of the war, that would be his major accomplishment. That he was able to help Moten on the left stabilize the battlefield after Mako's death. He was able to stop Gyou'un on the right and prevent him from single-handedly annihilating all the Quinn forces. And then he would have his final and greatest achievement in the center, whatever that would be. So perhaps Osun knew all along that Shin would be one of his main pieces that he would need to use in this war. And there was one other thing that kind of caught me off guard this chapter. If you remember in my last review, I was talking a lot about Moten being very comparable to Rin Sojo. And when you see him, even their looks are similar. So it's hard showing us the death of Rin Sojo, eerily foreshadowing the death of Moten. Not saying it's gonna happen, but it is something that I did notice. But anyway guys, that about does it for this week's review. Let me know what you guys thought of this chapter in the comments section below. Please leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Peace out!